of these days I will come up with a video idea that isn't a vlog, but today is not that day. Hello my lovely friend, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I am on the search for some new favorite books. Now, I will be fully honest, this video was supposed to go out last month. However, I was the unfortunate victim of a reading slump. Now I'm sitting here with this pile of possible favorites going, what do I do with these books? And the obvious answer is to read them, so we're gonna read some of them. I decided to go with a little bit of a theme, and the theme is authors that I have given 5 stars previously and seeing if I like other books by them. Here's what we have for this vlog. We have The Jade War by Fonda Lee. I read Untethered Sky, which is Fonda Lee's novella. I loved Untethered Sky. She did so much in that short little story. Absolutely phenomenal. The next one that I picked up is Love, Comment, Subscribe by Kathy Yardley. I read Role Playing by Kathy Yardley earlier this year for the Amazing Readathon and absolutely just had my world rocked by it. It was so very good. And so I wanted to delve into some of Kathy Yardley's other work and see how I feel about it. The final one that I did, because I have been meaning to get to more of this author's work, and I was like, you know what, this is the perfect chance for me to do this, is Abolition Feminism Now by Angela Davis, Gina Dent, Erica Miners, and Beth Ritchie. I read Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis earlier this year in February, I think. It was exactly the book that I needed at the time that I read it. The far-reaching view that Angela Davis has when it comes to social justice, when it comes to feminism, when it comes to human rights, just the way that her mind kind of approaches these topics. And I find that it is very, even in an imperfect world, it fills me with hope and fills me with the kind of what's the word? It's a con word. Conviction, with the conviction that no matter where we are now, things still can get better. These are the 3 books that I will be reading for this vlog, and we will check in periodically with what my thoughts are. I know it is a little bit early in this vlog for us to be doing an edition of Margaret Does the Laundry and talks about a book. I am on a timetable here right now, guys, and I want to stay relatively on time with the things that I have planned today. And of course, I didn't do this 30 minutes ago when I could have then sat down and now sprints. I am here with my first update of Jade War by Fonda Lee. I am 139 pages into this book. This is not a book that you can be using any part of your brain while you are reading it. Okay, so here's the thing. It's very funny because a lot of this I've read on sprints. And so I'm sitting here coming back from sprints and I'm like, yeah, in that hour I read 18 pages. In that hour I read 17 pages. And let me take this down a little bit. There's going to be a lot of me bending down involved, and so I don't want my head to be down here. Basically, what we are dealing with is we are in the country of Kekon, and oh my god, the name of the city is, I don't want to get it wrong, and it is escaping me at this moment, even though I've heard it 6 times in the last 45 minutes. I'm trying to place this in the history that I know of the area, because this is based on British colonialism and U.S. colonialism in China. They haven't really, it's all second world fantasy, so they haven't really explained or made direct necessary parallels. There have been a couple of times oh, that's the British. We've got we're following 3 siblings that are on one side of this crime family. We've got Shay, we've got Hilo, and we've got Lan, and their family is, Lan is the head. He's what's known as the pillar. And they are dealing with the fact that the other crime family is starting to is seeing an opportunity in some of the things that the foreigners are doing, or that the other countries are doing in regards to jade. My bangs are giving me grief right now. So, in this world, jade is a form of power, and only the Kekkonese are able to use it. It gives you, superpower. The people who are able to, the green bones is what they're called, who are able to harness this power and use it without consequence, or not consequence, because there are things like withdrawals and things like that. They are the ones, they spend their whole lives training, yada yada yada. We're watching as Hilo, Lan, and Shay are trying to grapple with kind of their grandfather's legacy. He was the one that was running their family before Lan he was the pillar before Lan. And then they're also they're dealing with the fact that this other family is trying to kind of encroach on their territory, as things do in crime families. Shay is coming back after having studied in Hispania. Hilo is the Horn is Lon's horn, which means that he is kind of like his second in command, I think, or like he's basically the guy that goes and beats people up if they make Lon mad. And Lon is trying to do things a bit differently. He is trying to do things in a way that is going to benefit their city. Like, he's dealing with older factions that are wanting to make peace with the other family, which is the Mountain. I can't remember the exact name. We've just had them kind of, not just had them kind of enter as a player, but we haven't. Anyways, and then he's got like his brother who's like wants to go scorched earth on them for like the smallest slight. And so he's trying to navigate that. Jay is dealing with the fact that she does not want to be a part of this family anymore. And the fact that like she's come back after having been in a relationship with a Hispanian, and so there's some bad blood in her family about that. And she doesn't want to use her family's name. She wants nothing to do with him, but also Lon needs her help with something, and so she's looking into that for him. I have a feeling that that's going to lead to some other stuff, and even though he promised that she wouldn't be drawn back into family business, I think she's going to end up being like, nope, now I've got to get involved. And then Hilo is just like, I just want to keep my family alive. Like, it's definitely a Margaret book, you know? I'm really enjoying it. When I was finally able to like sit down, like there's a whole bunch of stuff, like the rival gang leader has just made it kind of a play for power, or a play for, like, she's trying to strike an alliance with Lon, that Lon's like, I don't think this would be beneficial, but there are people that think it would be beneficial. There's so much going on right now, and this is definitely a series I have a feeling that like I'll want to end up rereading later. So I'm very excited though. I'm very interested in like where we're going and like all of that good stuff. I will check in when I've got more to talk to y'all about, but I wanted to update this before I got too far into the book, because I'll either have a lot to talk to y'all about as we get past the halfway point, or it'll be the end of the book. I am very intrigued by what Fonda Lee is planning on doing with this series. So I was right about something, but I was also wrong about something. Like, I was starting, I don't want to get to, like, I don't want to get spoiled, but there was a thing that I thought was happening that I was like, wait, this is a little bit early for this to be happening, for us to be suspecting this, if this is what's actually going on. And so I was just like, okay, well, that's fine. That's like, you know, maybe that's a red herring, although like all of the signs are pointing towards this. Basically, that took my attention away from what she was actually doing with the story, because we've gotten past someone's death. And if you have read Jade City, you would know which death it was. Sorry, angle change because I wasn't liking that one. She's doing things in this book that I would not have expected of in book 1 of a series. Like, I had a feeling we were going to come up to some of that. That might be a thing that would happen. But I wouldn't have expected it until like book 2 or 3. So that makes me go, so what does she have planned for the rest of the series if we're already doing this now? This is a twisty, complicated series. I think this is probably going to be the hardest book for most people to get past, because you're having to learn all of the clan politics, and like you have quite a bit of normal that you have to learn before the thing happens that happens. Currently, where we are, we're primarily focusing on Shay and Hilo and how they're affected by the thing that happened. And it's very obvious that, like, their places should be switched. He doesn't have the amount of perspective that he needs, and, like, the patience and all of that he needs to be able to put his clan and the city ahead of his family and his own personal sense of honor and like his feelings. He's looking to not change things, but he's looking for a specific outcome, and he's wanting to work towards a specific thing, but he's just not thinking about how it is going to affect the rest of the city and the amount of damage that is going to be happening. And it's very clear that Shay is able to think of those things. The lighting goes bad during this segment right now as we're updating you. It is because the apocalypse is coming in. We currently have enough light, but I can hear the thunder, and it could get much darker much more quickly. I have finished I can't talk. Let's try that again. I have finished Jade City by Fonda Lee. This got 4 stars. I had such a great time. I have notes over here. There's only one thing that this book needed for me to really, like, it just didn't give me those 5-star fuzzies that I look for in my 5-star books. So there is a romance sort of in this book, but it is not like a main focus. and it's not present enough, and we don't get enough from those two characters together for me to like, I need a good romance in this, and I don't know that I'm gonna get a good romance in this. This is perfect for a perfect setting for some romantic moments, and I need those, and I want them, and I am slightly worried that I will not get them, but also it's still a very good series without all of that, because like, wow, there is so much that Fonda Lee did. I have things written down. I am mildly confused at this point, and maybe that's because we have not gotten to book 2, and most of the people who I have seen talking about how much they love Hilo, have read book 2. I don't get it. Like, don't get me wrong, he is like a deeply fascinating, interesting, complex, well-rounded character, but also I just wanted to sit that man down and give him a talking to, because like there are places where he is so freaking hard-headed. That's the word I was looking for when I was writing. He's so freaking hard-headed about stuff, and like incapable of admitting that he might be wrong on certain issues, that he is causing harm. Like, there are things that you can link to him, like his decisions, and it is going, like, there is harm that is being done to his family, to his city, to his clan, and it is there because he is being implacable about certain things. And I'm just like, bro, I just, especially the one thing that happens at the end, you know what it is if you've read it. I just wanted to sit down and be like, no, we're talking about this. He's almost got it in a lot of ways. He's almost there. But there's just this level of paternalistic thinking that I don't like. And I need him to have a come to Jesus moment about some of that, especially when it comes to respecting other people's decisions and putting himself in other people's shoes, because I think that is a major problem for him in certain situations. There's a very narrow, reminds me of people in my life, there is a very narrow facet of experiences that makes sense to him, and if you are outside of that facet of experiences, he cannot and does not want to understand why you would make the decisions you make. We need more of Shay. Like, I'm very interested in where Shay's story is going. I love the way that the events of this book bring Shay and Hilo closer. I would like, because here's the thing, I get the impression that Shay has more understanding of why Hilo does the things he does than Hilo is willing to extend to her. Again, we've discussed this. I would like to see us come to a point, and that may not be the point of the series. I may have signed up for a series where a character that you got attached to and that you care about is responsible for his own demise. I may have gotten into that. I mean, that's already happened. Okay, anyways, I can't talk about that. That's spoilers. This is a series I actually would recommend to people who like political intrigue, who like suspense, who like those kinds of like puzzle piece plots, and are wanting to get into more fantasy, because this is a fantasy novel that is kind of light on the fantasy, and yet the fantasy element affects everything. It is not what you would call a hard magic system where there's like they're just listing all of the rules and all, like, this is not Wizard's First Rule. This is not the Stormlight Archive. It is not Mistborn when it comes to having magic systems that you are it is a magic system that just is. Its existence feels so effortless in the story. Yep, yeah, the sun is, we're just gonna deal with the lighting the way it is. The conversation that Fonda Lee is having in this about how, like, you can tell that Fonda Lee really sat down and thought about the commodification of magic. What happens? How does that affect society? How does that affect people's lives? What are the limits to it? What, like, you could, like, just the amount of thought put into that, fantastic. The way that the magic system informs the politics, and the politics inform the people, and the people inform politics and inform like, all of that going back and forth, so well done and fleshed out. Brilliant. Like, that, this has all of, like, the stuff I was wanting from this, like, the kind of, like, world building, the expansion of things that I was wanting when I read Untethered Sky. Like, when I, put Untethered Sky down, I was like, in this novella, the world building was so amazing, and now I've got a full novel, a trilogy of all of this amazing world building and, like, thought-provoking stuff, and, like, the amount of character, and I'm here. I'm along for the ride. I have moved on to abolition feminism. Now, my goal, I don't know how likely it is to read all of this. It's 171 pages, 73, not counting the appendices. This is 173 pages. I want to get that read. I want to move on to the final book in this list by tonight, because I feel like I can probably get that one finished by the end of the night. I don't have very much to say about it, especially with the light going the way it is. So I will talk to you. Let's see, is there anything like, obviously I've already got tabs in here. Reading this as a library book was a mistake. I should have just bought it. A lot of the introduction is just explaining the way that feminism and abolition are necessary and need, like they should be together. Like, to neglect one while pursuing the other does a disservice to the people that are affected by both, basically, is what she's going, or what they're going for. It's really good. I have some quotes in here that I have highlighted. Do I want to read any of them out loud? Will they make any sense to you? This was some stuff that I really liked, because I think sometimes we get lost in the cause, and we get lost in, I think, the thing that I have noticed about activism is that if you are not, especially if you're not the people that are most affected by it, if you are not careful and checking yourself and continually checking in with the goal, I feel that quite often certain people will use activism as a form of bullying. Abolition feminism does not shy away from contradictions, which are often the spark for change. Holding on to this both and, we can and do support our collective immediate and everyday needs for safety, support, and resources, while simultaneously working to dismantle carceral systems. And then a little bit further down in the paragraph it says, rather than being limitations, prescriptive horizons, or opportunities for empty quick fixes that resolve little, these contradictions are generative and necessary sites for collective analysis and labor. Angela Davis really, and the works that she has, put her name to, she tends to be one of those people that I go to when I start feeling lost and feeling like things are hopeless, because she just has this particular way of talking about the different struggles that we are going through in this world and the different things that need to change. The way she's able to talk about them is both realistic and also like forward thinking. I'm sure there are a lot of people that are like that. I just haven't found them yet. This is what I wanted to read because it's like kind of how the book is put together. Basically, I don't need to read this to you. Basically, the way that they have structured this book, so we have the introduction, and as you said, it's a politics and a practice, so they've structured the book around short chapters that highlight both ideas and how they are informed by each other, and then like a specific example of abolition feminism being put into practice. Okay, we are doing things a little differently than I usually, or than I have been doing in vlogs. I am on page. What page am I on? For some reason, we decided not to go with a bookmark today for this book, or for that book, for that matter. I should probably change that, but I'm not going to. I'm on page 111. So I have made it into the second chapter of this book. Here's what's gonna, usually I would not tandem read these. I would just like I would read for this vlog and I would read for another vlog, but we are quickly approaching upon the deadline. And my brain needs more time to process this book than I can, if I'm going to finish the third book in this. Rather than rushing through this book, this is the last time you're going to hear me talk about this until the end, probably, because just, there is not a lot to say, so here's the thing, there's, so much to say, I cannot unpack all of that without making this, this could be its own video. All of that to say that I'm going to keep reading this, I'm going to keep working through this, and I will give you my final rating when I get to it at the end. At this point, it's going to be at least 4 stars, just because, it's good. I'm going to also be picking up Love, Comment, Subscribe by Kathy Yardley. We'll get to that in a minute. So that's an audiobook. So I'm going to be listening to that to give my brain a break, because, I feel like this is so information heavy. I get to a point where I'm rereading the same sentence over and over again because my brain will not, will not physically process what I am reading anymore. I finished chapter 1, which is abolition, and I'm almost done with chapter 2, which is feminism. It's a 173 page book. I'm so close to the end. And I feel like abolition was a really strong chapter. It had a lot of really good stuff in it. I feel like the second chapter is making a better case tying feminism to abolition than the first chapter did tying abolition to feminism. Both of these are going through the histories of the movements, and talking about different things. One of the reasons, and like, here's the thing, I think people would question, like, why is it abolition feminism now rather than feminism abolition? And the thing is you cannot talk about feminism from this lens without first talking about abolition. The point of, like, why abolition feminism is a thing versus carceral feminism, which is something that this goes into, is that you cannot dismantle violence against women using a state that is built to uphold the patriarchy, using a state that is built to uphold violence against marginalized groups. And in this case, we're talking about any group that is not a white, straight, cis, het, male. Nothing wrong with people who are those things. It's just the state is meant to support them. One of the biggest examples that, like, really turned me on to this idea of, like, this is stand your ground laws. I'm still in a better position because I'm white than a black or brown or indigenous woman would be in if I were to fight against a partner who was abusing me. I cannot think off the top of my head any cases of white women where they killed or shot or harmed their abuser, and I can't think, but I do know there was a very prominent case where a woman shot, I don't even know if he died, but she shot her husband because he had been abusing her, and he was coming back after her, and she had a gun, and she defended herself. And the stand your ground laws did shit all for her. You are far more likely to be protected by those laws, and they have, in general, flaws. I don't like them. Let's put that there. You are far more likely to be protected by those laws if you are male than you are if you are female, regardless of race. So again, you cannot dismantle violence against women without dismantling the carceral state. The second chapter goes into talking about how many women are imprisoned for fighting back. They had to lay down why abolition is important first and why you should be fighting for abolition before they could get into feminism. Like, it had to be in that structure. Realizing that was fascinating. And it was very funny because I realized that, where was it? Hold on. It was like right before, because I think it's on page 106 that they have this quote. I realized it right before. There it is. Okay. It's on page 103. Okay, so it says, as the work evolved and took on more conservative tone, so this is talking about when feminism and specifically working against gendered violence started to be adopted more in the mainstream versus being something that was primarily being pushed forward by Black, brown, and indigenous women. As the work evolved and took on a more conservative tone, issues of racial justice, sexual exploitation, pernicious state violence, and this analysis of linked forms of oppression became incompatible with an emerging conceptualization of gender violence that relied exclusively on gender essentialism. Within this framework, the legitimate victim of gender and sexual violence could not be a sex worker, a queer person, a woman of color, and certainly could not be an incarcerated person. This conceptualization was predicated on a false assumption of solidarity and a uniformity of experience of violence. More importantly, it disavowed the concerns about injustice as the root of the problem, leading instead to an overly simplistic carceral analysis that promoted policing and prisons as the solution. Like, one of the things that it talks about in this chapter is how feminism, or specifically, again, talking about work against gender violence, how it went from something that has a systemic cause. Not just like speaking about intimate partner violence, speaking about violence against the state. Like, all forms of gender violence have a systemic cause. And it was taken from there and given an individual bend, which is an issue we have as a country in the U.S. I don't know, probably have people outside of the U.S. that are watching this, but was there anything else? Beth Ritchie and Kayla Martinson later described the way in which services became safety. The emphasis of these programs was on individual care rather than the root causes of violence, reforming systems rather than creating alternatives, and providing short-term respite for people who have been harmed rather than producing long-term structural changes. And that's just about the fact that women need, the thing that stands between most women and leaving an abusive situation is resources. I know this from I used to work in a mental health office, and I worked with DCF specifically. That was a huge part of my job, was coordinating services between my office and Department of Children and Families. I saw time and time again when, for so many reasons, whether it was whether it was domestic violence, whether it was something mom had a substance abuse problem, whether it was simply finances, support was withheld from mom or from dad in some cases. Like, because I worked with both men and women. But specifically talking about support was withheld until the children had been removed. None of the mental health services were paid. None of, like, they would fund finding people apartments if that was what they needed to do to get the children back to the parent. None of that was available to you. They would recommend you for some of our services, but none of the support was available to you. I'm getting so heated. I'm so sorry. None of it was available to you until you were at the point of no return. I have a friend who is currently about to be homeless. There are no resources for this friend and their family until they are homeless. Like, they've reached out, they've tried so many things. They've been crowdfunding for years at this point. Like, every time something happens, they're like, hey guys, this is what was happening. We are so sorry that we're having to come to you again. But again, like, these resources are not there. This is what we've tried. This is what they're saying. They've had, like, just because one of the people in their household got a part-time job, they had all of their housing assistance removed. It drives me nuts how we withhold and denigrate people for needing services. And it's not until they are at their lowest that we're like, okay, fine, we'll help you. And we do it in such a backhanded way. Another thing that they are talking about, that she talks about a lot in this chapter on feminism, is how women of color, who are quite often, like, specifically a good example is the Me Too the Me Too movement. That was a movement that was started by Tarana Burke. She is a black woman, and it was largely credited to Alyssa Milano until people started going, actually, no, this woman's been using this term and talking about this since 2006. And I believe, like, Alyssa Milano specifically, I think it was Alyssa Milano. It might have been another actress that is kind of in her circle. But I remember them bringing Tarana Burke to an event, specifically because Me Too was such a big deal, and they knew they were going to be asking her, the actress, questions, and she was like, well, I'm going to have the woman who started this here. Even my camera said, girl, you talk too much, because it just cut me off. I am going to be starting as well, love, comment, subscribe by, oh shit, my battery's dying. Oh my god, y'all, that went from like 2 bars to dying so quickly. Anyways, I am going to be starting love, comment, subscribe by Kathy Yardley. Stop it. I need to stop moving this chair. I hate this chair so much. This chair is the bane of my existence. I'm going to be starting this. This is about Lily and Tobin. Yeah, this is about Lily and Tobin. They knew each other in high school, and now they are both YouTubers with, she's at like 3.8 million, and he is at, I think, somewhere around 9. I just started it. And I have this as an audiobook, by the way. That's kind of why I'm going to be going back and forth between these. I just was like, you know what, I have to get an audiobook involved in here, and I need to finish this video. So I went and I got this, and I know I love Kathy Yardley, and I mean, we're a few pages in. It was a good choice. I'm going to enjoy this. Lily is a beauty YouTuber, and she is working on growing her channel. She's trying to expand. She wants to start doing brand deals. She wants to start, like, maybe getting her own makeup palette, things like that. And the biggest kind of thing standing in her way is that she has not yet reached like 5 million subscribers. She's trying to get there. Tobin is like a gaming jokes goofball channel, who's a little bit higher up. And so they are going to be at some point, like, it's going to be brought up that she needs to, like, it's already been brought up that she needs to collab with a larger creator. So they are at some point going to end up collabing. They knew each other in high school, kind of were part of the same group. And, like, Lily has this thing about wanting to prove that she is cool, basically. Like, she wants to prove that she is just as good as the popular kids. Ma'am, there are better cross streets to be taking this particular picture at. Her outfit looks cute. I'm not going to show you because that shows you the street in my house, and I don't do that. The block next to mine is a nice block, but it's still pretty janky in places. So, like, girl, go like 4 streets down, and it's fantastic. It's all the big fancy $1 million houses with the $1 million lawns. I am assuming, like they kind of have this antagonistic, like, you know, that kind of, the girls and the AFAB people are going to, you know, that boy that, like, he liked tease, and it wasn't in like a mean way, it's just that you guys kind of had that relationship where you were continually teasing each other. That was me with like 90% of my guy friends. That's the relationship they have. He's like that guy that, like, they are friends, but they also kind of want to, like, he drives her up a wall. just being himself. And it's very funny to be watching all of that. So I think we're gonna have a good time because I like that dynamic and I think it's a fun dynamic. And Kathy Yardley, at least in the last book I read, really does a good job with those. So I am going to go get in workout clothes. I'm gonna go for my jog, and I will talk to you later this evening. Well, hello. I am 151 pages into like, comment, subscribe, and I'm enjoying it. So the thing that Kathy Yardley really nails is like being able to take two nerds and really build a relationship between them. So I think her thing might be slow burn because we're 151 pages in, and nothing has happened really, which I'm cool with. Like that's cool with me. I'm liking the build between them and everything they're doing, like, with the different collabs. Like, their first collab that they did with him and her on his channel, that's a classic. That is like, you could build an entire brand on just bringing in your girlfriend to try out new games without her being fully aware of what, like, I feel like he's right, maybe give her a little bit more warning than he gave her, but, like, not being fully aware of what she is getting herself into. It was funny. That was, like, that's a whole video series right there. My girlfriend tries to beat Mr. Perfect. And then, like, them doing the whole, like, just, like, when she pulled him in and was like, we're gonna do a whole, like, makeup. That was so funny. Like, and it's very clear that they are both kind of out of their element as they are doing these collabs, but even though they are out of their element, they still are able to roll with the other's punches. Literally. I didn't even think that. This is fun. This is cute. Like, I'm really liking how we are building both of them individually and then getting to see them interact. So, like, it's one of those books where, like, there's not a lot, like, I mean, there is some of them together, but there's also a good, solid chunk of them by themselves working through the different things that they are facing, the different challenges that they're dealing with. Tobin is dealing with a lot of burnout when it comes to his channel, and I'm, like, I feel that. Like, that just feels very relatable. And then, like, well, they're both actually kind of dealing with a little bit of burnout. And, like, for her, I think it's more that what she wants to make or what she's comfortable making isn't something you can continually do over and over again because it does get stale. And she seems to be someone who makes a point, like, what I'm getting is the impression is she makes a point of not reviewing things that she doesn't like, of trying to keep things mostly positive in her space. Throwback to the beginning of my channel. See how long that lasted. That lasted for a good couple of years, I think. And I still, like, when I'm sent books for review, I'm still careful about the ones I review negatively, especially if they're in genres that I may publish in later, because that can make things awkward. If you're ever wondering why some of your booktube faves don't negatively review certain genres and stuff, that's why, because that can make it awkward if you end up on a panel with someone or if you end up agent siblings or any of that stuff. The family dynamics, I'm not quite sure the family dynamic for Lily. Tobin's family dynamic is, like, it's very clear his parents love him, but they do not support what he is doing, and they do not see the value in what he is doing, and that feels very relatable. And then, like, there's something going on with her mom and her mom wanting her to be successful, but I also think it is, like, she is fully in support of what Lily is currently doing because she believes that Lily can be successful at that. So, like, there's pressure on her, but it's not like, oh, you're not doing what I want you to do kind of pressure. It's, oh, I believe you can be all of this stuff kind of pressure. And Lily's like, oh, I don't know, Ma. I don't know. So it's very fun. It's very cute. The banter between the two of them and the back and forth and the way they are able to go from her beating him senseless with a pillow to them having this really, like, adorable, serious moment. That was such a good whole thing of scenes, guys. Like, and while some of that may have gotten a little bit out of hand, and okay, yeah, maybe she should have apologized for that. At the same time, it's kind of the kind of relationship I feel I would do well with. One that, like, pillow fights or something that happens. Probably my allergies would not do well with that, but, like, bitch, I hear you. Yeah, you better stay hidden. I've got a shoe with your name on it. Alright, we have a final update on everything that we read for this vlog. Let's start. I'm gonna go in reverse order of what I finished. Let's start this with saying that all of these got 4 stars. I really liked them. They were really well written books. They really, did what they meant to do, and they did it well. The most recent one that I finished is Abolition, Feminism, and Now. I really liked this book. I liked the way that they broke down the chapters. I think I've already talked about that. I liked the way that they focused on the history of abolition, the history of feminism, and then they started, they really did take and look at recent events in Chicago and start talking about how abolition feminism applies to that and how it moved. One of the things I really appreciated about that final chapter and also about the epilogue is that it talks about the fact that progress isn't necessarily measured in convictions. Does that make sense? It's not necessarily measured in an organization being a far-reaching thing. Sometimes the progress that you have is measured in small ways, and is measured in the number of people that are now educated about a thing that were not educated before. Normative, evaluative logics of success. When is passing legislation, creating a policy, or a large and permanent organization, something tangible or deliverable, are internalized and sometimes produce shame. What did we do? We failed. But as abolition feminism reminds us, while changing laws and policies might be necessary, it is never sufficient. The entire point of this entire work is that you cannot, you have to dismantle the system at its core. You can't just make reforms. You can't just make the jail kinder. You can't just prosecute you have to have laws that support women, getting them out of abusive situations. It's not enough to every now and then prosecute an abuser. The number of times that I read reports, and keep in mind, this was not often, because I only ever, for my job, I purposely did not go into the reports unless I absolutely had to, because we needed information from them that the caseworker was not giving me, because I had to interact with these people. I had to be able to be kind and pleasant and not lose my job while talking with these people. I'm not strong enough to do that if I know what you've done. In some cases. So I avoided these as much as possible, also because it was a privacy thing. So you're not supposed to access those records unless you have a reason. But the number of times, of the handful of times I had to access those, the number of times there was a very clear bias on the part of the child protective investigator towards one or both of the parents that was clear in how they wrote about them, just infuriating. In campaigns and on-the-ground projects, a complexity of the collective doing or making is not fully documentable. Totally get that sentiment, but then they do later on in this epilogue kind of talk about how it is important to have documentation, to have things written down in the moment, to see where we are, because that's important for the historical record. A lot of the things that I love listening to when it comes to podcasts and educating myself about history, a lot of them would not be possible if it weren't for books like this and for pamphlets and things like that. This is a very, very good book. It is not the best thing I've read by Angela Davis. I still think that Freedom is a Constant Struggle was better as a project, but I really think that this is an important text, and if you are a feminist, you really need to read and engage with this text, because it will have you thinking. It will have you sitting down and questioning things. A lot of this was not new to me. If I had been a little baby feminist and picked this up, I think there would have been a lot more mind-blowing moments for me in this, but this really for me was just reaffirming and expanding on ideas that I've already been thinking about, ideas that I've already been exploring, and things that I've already been trying to put into practice in my own life to some extent. For Love, Comment, Subscribe by Kathy Yardley, I had a great time with this one. It did not have quite the same wow factor as role-playing. There just was a level of, I don't know, just instant connection between me and Maggie when I was reading that. I'm oh, I get this woman's, she's me in 20 years. There was that kind of moment. I didn't quite get that in this book because our main character, Lily, is obsessed with not necessarily being popular, but proving her worth to the popular kids. And I've always been so, like, here's the thing. I'm an eldest daughter. I do want people to like me. But I also recognize that there are people that them not liking me says more about them than it does about me as a person. Like, there are people that I am proud they do not like me. Like, okay, you don't like, well, that, I mean, if you did like me, I'd be questioning some choices about my life. I'm also not everyone's cup of tea. I can recognize that. I can recognize that my personality might be grating for some people. I can recognize that I might make some people uncomfortable with how often I talk about certain subjects, because I know I'm losing subscribers for this video. I know I am. Anytime sexism or feminism comes up, at least 2 of y'all are about to leave. This was fun though. It was cute. It had a couple that I could root for. It had like a struggle that's going on for Tobin that I really related to, trying to figure out like what do you do? What do you do when your brain doesn't, or stops in my case, working in the system that most people expect it to be able to work with. The one thing I will say, her sex scenes and role-playing are much better. That's all I'll say. It was really cute though. I can't tell you what was really cute, but it was really cute. It was really cute when they, well actually I can't tell you what was, there's a little parody video that they do, and that's exactly my kind of humor. That is exactly the kind of thing that I would think about pulling, and I love it. I respect them so much for that. I do know also that this is part of like a trilogy, I think, so I'm very interested in like I'm excited that there are 2 more books. I can't decide who the next person is going to be. Can't decide that, but I'm very excited to get to it whenever that happens. And then the final one, which, I mean, I put this book down and immediately was like, well, I need to ask for the second one. Jade City by Fonda Lee. This was a wild ride from start to finish. Fonda Lee did some things that like just blew my mind away. Honestly, I think if it had not been for the really weird, out of place, not great sex scene at the beginning of this, like, I've checked with other people, like, was it just me being ace, or was this bad? And my friend was like, no, it was bad. It is worth getting past that scene, I will tell you that. I feel like this is a potential, like, later books in the series could be 5 stars, okay? Like, I feel like this is something that I am going to, as I get to know these characters, as I get more into this world, as I get more attached to what's going on, provided Fonda Lee doesn't commit the cardinal author sin, I think it could be a favorite series. Like, I can see book 2 or book 3 being a 5-star read for me. I have some qualms, obviously, with things that I need in books for them to be 5 stars. Like, there were no 5-star fuzzies on this one. A lot of that has to do with my own personal preference. It has nothing to do with the book in and of itself, because this was a fantastic book. Like, the things that Fonda Lee is doing and putting in place, and all of the strings. I'm not doing the strings, but like my brain was like, oh, I see the threads. While this did not lead to any all-time favorites, I feel like this still was one of those moments that like this was worth the time and the effort that went into it. This was worth the time that it took me to read the books, because like I had a good time reading. I had a better time reading some of these than I have had in a very long time, it feels like. My brain is probably playing tricks on me again about time and how time works, because that happens. Long story short, I would call this experiment a success, because I got 3 books that I enjoyed out of it. And that is better than I can say for some things that I have read this year. I think I'll probably be doing this again, at least personally. I may not do a whole vlog about it, but I think that like looking at past authors and books that I've liked and like drawing connections between the two is a decent way to find books that you like. If you would like to see me do it with any specific books that I have loved before by authors, like let me know. Or actually, no. Bring that back. Let me know. What is an author that you gave 5 stars to that you have been meaning to read more of their work? I want to know who your authors like this are. This is the point of the video where I am supposed to ask you to subscribe. But as we previously covered that I am not everyone's cup of tea, I would just point you in the direction of here if you like videos by someone whose brain will not turn off while reading. If you like those kinds of reviews, check those out. See if you like it. If you like those videos, then maybe consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That is it for now, my friends. I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! This is a different tripod than I normally do, so like when I went and put my hand on it like that, the entire camera just sank down on the tripod.